I mean, I think that that's one of the most beautiful gifts of shifting from victim mindset to radical responsibility, where you go, okay, all of these things that are being brought to me are being brought to me for a reason, and what can I learn from it? How can I grow? And it's about perspective. So I'm curious for you, because I'm sure you didn't always think that way in your previous life, previous versions of yourself.
No.
Yeah, share. When we connected, your story really impacted me. So I'm curious if you would be willing to share with listeners some of your backstory.
Yeah, absolutely. The most influential part of my story is my struggle with alcoholism and drugs. I started drinking and using drugs at a really, really young age, 10, 11. And I was always pretty much able to manage what was going on outside, mostly due to, my passion for sports. And so I got good grades, and I kept it under wraps for a long time. And, I went away to college and I played college football, and that was the only thing that really mattered to me was sports. And in order to comply with team rules and things of that nature, I kind of was able to, manage it. And, once my sports career ended early due to multiple injuries and surgeries, it just took off, and it completely enveloped me, and it became my number one priority. And it took me to really dark places for 20 years of it. I basically ended up in the end, I was homeless. I had a $300 a day heroin habit. I was worthless, penniless, homeless. I'd been alienated from, well, let's just say I pushed away everybody important in my life. And I had hit a bottom. And it wasn't the first bottom. Like, multiple times over the course of 20 plus years, my alcohol and drugs would become a problem, and I would need to get cleaned up and either, a nudge from the judge, so to speak, either by the law or the family or the girlfriend or the boss. And I would always do that. I'd go and get clean, and I would stay clean for significant periods of time, sometimes even more than a year, without any intention of ever stopping. I was just wait until the smoke cleared, and then get back to doing what I was doing. And, I suffered most consequences associated with living a life like that, short of long-term prison and death. Inability to form relationships with other human beings, in and out of institutions, health issues, all type of really dangerous situations, from multiple car wrecks to being in places where I ended up on the wrong side of a gun, and just really, really, really messy. And the shocking part about all this is I never realized that I was being protected somehow, and you talked about the victim mindset, and my mindset was I've been dealt this life. And the truth is I chose that life, and I had this victim mindset, if this didn't happen, then I wouldn't, I had a bunch of, stuff that went down, like childhood trauma, and a lot of violence, a lot of death. I'm surrounded by a lot of death. And I really didn't understand that it had impacted me until I was well into recovery. And, I never could see that, if things were fair, I think it's great that life isn't fair, because if things were fair, I would be dead or in prison. And I was protected. And the reason why I was protected is because in order to spread the message of hope, and to, take all of my failures and my defects of character and my struggles and my challenges overcome, and they become my greatest strengths. That's where the strength from failure comes from. It's like all the things that I felt were my biggest, worst defects of character that I wanted to hide from everybody else turns out to be my greatest strength, because I've walked the path that somebody's going to walk on. And so it puts me in a unique position to help them traverse the same territory. Mm-hmm. So you can interrupt me anytime. It's like, this is something that talking about this is what I do.
I appreciate your willingness to share, and I'm just listening, and whenever anyone shares, I always honor the space of whatever you want to say. And what was happening in my brain just that was amazing. It's like me imagining my listeners listening to you and it striking some chord in them of like, awesome. Thank you for sharing your deepest, darkest moments so that they can also have permission to do the same, and that we all are in this together. And maybe their darkest moments weren't as, quote unquote, dark or deep as yours, but we all have them, and we can all turn to hope, and we can all shift. And, I would love it if you'd share what happened for you when you actually decided to really make the change. What did that for you?
I wish I could tell you that I made some sort of decision to change my life. I did mention like the type of bottom that I had hit, but I had hit many bottoms, and there's always a bottom below a bottom. And on August 20th, 2009, when I checked into a detox, there were certainly higher forces at work that day, because I had no intention of getting clean and sober. I wasn't done.
To listen to the full episode, head on over to nfacoaching.com, hit the podcast link, and it'll take you to all of the full episodes. And go ahead and leave some comments. I'd love to hear from you to know how these inspirational interviews, tips, and tools are impacting you in your life and business. And be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on any of the Max Potential Habits episodes.